Greetings and welcome to Untied We Stand. I'm Kevin Putzier, your host, and as this is my first broadcast, I'd like to introduce myself a bit. I have a moderate following on Twitter and on Medium, so some of you will be familiar with me. I'm a political junkie, and in the American spectrum, I'm pretty far to the left. Of course, if you look at the general state of democracies in the world, this means I'm slightly left of center in the rest of the world, but here we are. So, a little background. I call my channel Untied We Stand as both a joke and a warning. The joke is obvious. The warning might not be. We are extremely divided as a nation right now. And it's artificial and superficial things that divide us. Because we are tied to various systems and ideologies that can't seem to find a compromise in the case of the ideologies, and are designed to keep it that way in the case of the systems. Those who know me from Twitter and Medium probably see me as pretty far left and radical. Those platforms, particularly Twitter, lack nuance. So to be clear, the impression is not wrong. I'm pretty far to the American left and I've always been a radical. But I was once a conservative, and after that an anarchist. In fact, I remain an anarchist. It's a very comprehensive philosophy, but it has certain presuppositions. So I don't believe that it's possible as the world stands today. Getting humanity to that level of personal responsibility and social cooperation is the work of generations. Back when I was advocating anarchism, the question that I could never answer was, how do we get there? So I quit talking about it for almost a decade. Not to dodge the question, but to hopefully find an answer. The answer that kept suggesting itself was not the answer I had hoped for, but the evidence is there. To make a peaceful society that can move toward the kind of cooperation and individual freedom that anarchism presupposes, you need a strong government with some serious safety nets. This, of course, presents its own problems, because a strong government is dangerous if not constrained, and useless if too constrained. Coming at this from the thought exercise of how do we become a truly free society where everyone is doing okay, you eventually get forced to certain conclusions. Over time, I will be exploring those with y'all in these videos, and in some live streams as well, if things go the way I want them to. But for now, an overview. A just government must be very powerful in the areas that it operates and have little to no power outside of those fences. This is the old conservative idea of limited government. Not small, but limited. A government covering 300 million and more citizens by nature cannot be small. When I was a kid, the serious conservatives talked about this idea, but somewhere in the mid-80s to early 90s, the focus changed to small government, and the ideation that government should have no power at all became a far-right cause célèbre without any sort of ideas of what society would be like under such systems or lack thereof. The current far-right is a different sort of anarchism, the sort you see in Mad Max. It deserves no real consideration other than acknowledging it as a major destructive force. We can dismiss those with no ideas, but we cannot dismiss that they exist and that they will disrupt society. There are elements of old conservatism that make sense. Those elements have to do with taking care to evaluate potential impacts of programs and not being reckless. The overarching modern thrust of conservatism, however, is both religious and reckless, and thus does not serve the general polity. So, after years of looking at things and refining my own philosophy, I've become basically a democratic socialist. Because I came from the right, my knee jerked a lot about that label. But, like most labels, it's not fully accurate anyway. Like socialism generally, it doesn't really tell you much. I have my own version of this philosophy, which I call practicalism, that tries to find the best elements of any political philosophy and shamelessly jack them. This means, whatever label fits best, that I'm more concerned with building a workable and just society than any particular ideology. That being said, there are certain elements that I see as necessary, and these tend to be rather left-wing in the present. These are mostly involving what government should and should not do. Basic human rights, and yes, this includes both the freedom of and the freedom from religion, should be guaranteed by a just government. This includes reproductive freedom, which is an area that the religious right needs to pull their head out of their ass on. I'm not going to go into great detail on that here, as it's easily 2 or 3 videos by itself. Suffice it to say that their stated goal and their actions are diametrically opposed, and we have overwhelming evidence to support this. Sex education based on science and reality, unrestricted access to contraceptives, and the right to abortion all put together reduce unwanted pregnancies by leaps and bounds over bans and restrictions. I'm not guessing here, and they have access to this data as well. The country with the lowest rate of abortions in the world is the Netherlands, and they have what I just illustrated. This also points out what I'm talking about with being practical rather than wed to a particular philosophy. The evangelical Christian right wants bans on all of this because they find it offensive to their religion. They are incapable as a group of understanding that they cannot force their beliefs on everyone, and therefore unwilling or possibly unable to look at any solution that is realistic. Guess what? I'm not a Christian, let alone an evangelical, and I should not be bound by their religion, nor should you unless you're a part of it. If they wish to be more restrictive than a just law allows for, that is their prerogative, but it cannot be enforced on those who believe differently without being criminal. And besides that, the secular solution has been demonstrated to get the end result they claim to want. Moving on from this, the governing institutions should be very focused on the people of the nation rather than just the businesses and certain groups. The preamble to the Constitution of the United States can be viewed as a mission statement, with everything that follows being the tools to implement that mission. I'm going to read that preamble and go more into that for the remainder of this video. It goes like this. And for you on the right, this begins with a pronoun. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That, folks, is the mission statement of the founding document of our nation. So looking at this, we actually have a pretty good framework for what government should do, and this also gives it some limitations, even without further legislation. That last line, particularly, secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, specifically mandates that outside of the rest above it, government needs to keep their hands off. It seems clear, looking to history and simply practicality, that such a government must be based in democracy or a semi-democratic form. Indeed, within our Constitution, it calls for a republican form of government. This has almost nothing to do with the modern Republican Party, so let's take a look at what it means, shall we? I'm going into this because the right in this country has stated again and again, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. They see this, in their emotional way, as owning the libs. This is not the flex they think it is. A republic, and I'm using the first line in the wiki article for this definition, is a state in which power rests with the people or their representatives, specifically a state without a monarchy. Sounds very much like a democracy, right? In recent years, this has come to also imply certain authoritarian but non-monarchical states. It has largely been a system of representative government all the way back to Rome. In short, a form of democracy. Now, these same people will say that the Founding Fathers feared democracy. This, to a degree, is true. They feared a full direct democracy. Some of them for nefarious reasons, but most because they feared it would devolve into mob rule, then the rule of law. Now, I consider this a reasonable fear, as there are really no safeguards against tyranny in such a system. A republic, however, can reasonably account for this and still have elements of direct democracy, such as citizens' ballot initiatives. Yet at the same time, the majority of law and governance comes from elected representatives and professionals. This, too, is something that can easily get long-winded. I'm good at long-winded, but I'll leave it there for now. Moving back to the preamble, parts of it are aspirational. A more perfect union. This largely came out of the troubles caused by the relative weakness of the Articles of Confederation. We can pretty much skip over this part in determining where the fences should be because it's only relevant as flavor. Next, our government is to establish justice. This is a fraught and ongoing process of discovery, but of immense importance. Thus far, we have done a shit job on this. Equal justice before the law is the aspiration. Right now, justice is different depending on race, creed, color, and socioeconomic class, especially socioeconomic class. We fucked this up so badly that we have the world's largest prison population by number and by percentage. That's right, folks. We have more people in prison than China or India, and they have 5 times our population each. We need to savagely rethink this. Americans, by and large, are not horrible people. We lock people up for stupid shit while letting the real criminals go. Moving on to the next parts. And I'm going out of order because these two are actually one thing. The poetic language is nice, but the two listed things go hand in glove. That would be to ensure domestic tranquility and promote the general welfare. Both are achieved when the wealth of the nation is equitable across the population. I did not say equal, I said equitable. This also helps with the establishment of justice, another part of the same thing. Now, I'm a very large proponent of universal basic income, and I think we should start with a guaranteed basic income. These programs, the details of which require a lot more time and will be dealt with repeatedly on my channel, would reduce crime, eliminate homelessness and poverty, and make the nation generally better. Yes, they would require privileged people to pay more taxes, and they would likely increase the taxes at the lower margins to a very small degree, especially if you fold universal health insurance into it. This is not outrageous. For you conservatives whose knees are jerking right now, this lines up very nicely with the Constitution, but it also benefits you directly and indirectly. It makes communities livable. It reduces dependence on burdensome special case welfare programs, and it makes for a healthier and less violent populace. It promotes family unity, a big thing in your talking points. But from your pro-capitalist standpoint, few of you would recognize Adam Smith's version of capitalism, but whatever, it is an investment in the nation which returns immediate and measurable profits. A brief aside on this, because in the United States we have forgotten all meaning associated with profits not denominated in dollars. Profit means gain. It doesn't necessarily mean money, though I believe that the general monetary economy would get a hell of a boost from such programs, but it means gain. The purpose, then, of a republic is to serve the people. All of us. Which means that we invest into it, and should in turn it be used to benefit all of us. This also includes protection of our environment. If we are to provide for domestic tranquility and general welfare, clean air, water, and food are vital and necessary. Lastly, we have the command to provide for the common defense. Externally, both by accident of geography and might of arms, we are well defended. Of all the things mandated in the preamble, we've done the best on this. Not great, but definitely not terrible. Internally, we've not done so well. There are multiple ways of dealing with that as well. Increased use of violent thugs in blue uniforms is not one of them. In fact, everything I've illustrated prior to this would help lower the temperature in our country and also increase our internal defenses. We have other tools, though. One of them, abused as it currently is the Second Amendment, which calls for and expressly authorizes the existence and regulation of militia. I'm only going to touch on that here because it's too long a subject. I have ideas that I believe the left, right, and center could agree on in this matter. So to sum up, the federal government should be providing a basic living to those who cannot make it on their own, and they should do so without a great deal of trouble. They should be making our courts actually just. They should regulate in a manner affirming general human rights without favor to more restrictive groups, and they should defend us against aggression and pollution. Almost everything else should not be in their purview. That would be a powerful but limited government. Exactly what conservatives used to claim they wanted. Exactly what the left does want. This preserves liberty for us and our posterity by allowing everyone to have opportunity and by saying you can reach for the stars, and if you should fall, you'll only fall so far. Obviously, this video covers a lot of ground and makes several claims that I have not provided adequate evidence for. I could play the stupid game and say, do your research! But I shall instead just state the truth. This is an overview. I intend to go into greater depth on a lot of this and many other aspects of politics and social theory in future videos. And I might so do some goofy ones just for the fun of it, but hey. For now, welcome to my channel. If you found this video entertaining, educational, or of use, please consider subscribing to my channel and also tipping via my Ko-fi account in the description. It will help me to pay the bills, which in turn will give me more time to make more content. Also, if you do find these useful or entertaining, please by all means share it on your various social medias. Like it, whatever it does to get people looking at me. I will be eternally grateful. You all have a great day.